The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to give it just another moment or two before we get started, just as people are logging on, and we'll be getting started shortly.
Robert, can you hear me? Okay.
Hi, everybody. So it's just after 1 o'clock Central Time. We are going to go ahead and get started. I know that there may be some people joining a little bit late, but we want to be respectful of everybody's time. And so we'll go ahead and get started with some introductions. Welcome to the webinar where the ICATT Apprenticeship Program and Richland Community College are going to explore the idea of an apprenticeship program for fabrication and welding technician. We've got some great experts, in addition to Richland, also a local manufacturing educator area, making manufacturing. And we're thrilled to have everybody on here today. I would like to introduce our other speakers before we get started. And so you can see Robert Bryce and John Oliver from Richland Community College. And I'd also like to introduce Mary Ann Brown from Mason Manufacturing. And Robert and John and Mary Ann are going to be speaking later. Also on this webinar are a couple of my colleagues from the German American Chamber, Sasha Kuhn, Ted Lakowski, and Doris Bawa. And so they'll be helping out with any technical issues that you may put in the chat or any questions. And then when we have the communication later, they will also be able to help you with that. So let's go ahead and get started. What I'd like to just give you an idea of the agenda, what we'll be showing today. So you can see the introductions we've gone through already, and we've got some housekeeping points. We'll go over the overview of ICATT first, and then I'll hand it over to Richland and Mason, and then we'll talk about timeline and next steps. We do have a section for Q&A at the end. And so if there's something that you don't understand, then please feel free to go ahead and put the questions in and just flag us that you'd like this answered now. Otherwise, we'll get all those questions at the end for you. And because we've got a lot of content from everybody, so we may answer those questions. Okay, so the first thing that I want to show, a couple of housekeeping notes for GoToWebinar and making sure that you can use the tools here for those that it may have been a while. First of all, this little tiny control panel should be sitting somewhere on your screen, and this is the thing that you look at because this is what's going to give you access to the chat. You can see the red arrow. You want to click that red arrow to open it. If it's still closed, you can raise your hand, as you can see with the little hand icon, but probably you want to go ahead and open it. Once it's opened, then you'll see that there's a section for questions or chat. If you're having problems with the audio and you want to dial in with your phone instead, that information appears under audio. But primarily, you would be putting your questions right here into this field so that we can then collect them all and read them out. So do go ahead and type those in at any time during the webinar. And then I did also want to make you aware that the webinar is being recorded for some of the interested people that couldn't be here today. All right, so without further ado, let me go ahead and we'll get started with some of the content. So the Welding Job Outlook, so we got some stats for you. I'm pretty sure if you are interested in welders, you've seen these stats before. The one that really gets me is the average age of the welders and what that's going to mean with this silver tsunami that people are expecting. The thing about these statistics, though, is this is not new. This has been going on, and manufacturers have been poaching. They've been trying everything, and so the situation is like we got to do something different. We have to try something different to get the skilled workforce that we need. So this is where the ICAT apprenticeship program comes in. So the whole idea, I'm going to start with the big picture, the 30,000-foot view. The program is really designed to help employers create that sustainable pipeline. It's not about one welder, one time ever, and then you're done. That's what a staffing agency is for. This is a sustainable solution. And we also want to attract more young people to manufacturing careers. This is what we need. We need more people. We need more young people here. And so we've got an attractive package to try to get them on board. And really the idea on the employer level is it's really training that all the studies say is the number one thing to build employee loyalty, because we want these well-trained people to stick with you. So that's really the structure of the program. A little bit moving to the operational level. Before I get quite into details, there are just a couple of other points I want to make about the structure of the program. The other thing that's important to us is we want well-rounded technicians, not somebody that can do exactly one job, only one job, and then that's it. They have to be retrained if that job changes. We want them to have a broad base of skills. And then the program is also set up to measure the skills required by every single apprentice. And so that you know coming out what actually can they do. So that's the philosophy behind the structure. So now into the details of what it is. An apprenticeship is always employer-sponsored training and education. An apprentice is primarily an employee, and the employer chooses them. Some people say, well, how are you assigning me my apprentice? It's like, well, no, you have to believe in somebody for that. We can help you find some applicants. By the end of the day, they're an employee of your company. The employer provides on-the-job learning. And what's important here is when you're doing an apprenticeship, this is really building up somebody from scratch. So you're not onboarding or giving continuing education to somebody that already knows this. This is really actively teaching them on the job and something they can't get from just watching. If you could get these skills from watching, then, well, they could be watching their YouTube videos. So active training and practice on the job is a very important philosophy of this program. And the investment in the apprentice. So this is, again, part of that attractive package. So the employer pays hourly wages, of course, but also tuition for the college courses, and then a stipend while the apprentice is in class. How you get this commitment back, the program and Illinois law does allow for an optional full-time employment commitment on successful completion. So if they were to leave before this, so after the apprenticeship, work for you for 2 more years as a full-time employee, or they may have to pay the college courses back. So there's a little bit of security there that you can build into the contract. So I will say the best way to keep people is to treat them right and make them loyal, but we'll get into that another time. College coursework. Also an important part. We do work to align the college coursework with the training plan if you're on the job learning. What we're looking at for this program would be 2 days at college and 3 days working at the company would be the structure that we typically have. And for a 3-year program, this is enough time for an apprentice to go ahead and earn the complete associate degree, which is a great way to attract more young people to manufacturing, as we mentioned before. The candidates do have to place into a college program. They have to be able to do college level math and college level reading in order to do that. So that is one thing that sometimes if you're placing an incumbent worker, if they've been out of school for a while, they may need a little bit of remedial help because that math is, not immediately accessible. But that is the one, if people say, well, who can get into the program? The answer is 1, the employer needs to be willing to hire them, and 2, they need to place them to the college. So we don't have our own requirements. It's really the college and the employer requirements for who can be an apprentice. So we've got some great statistics. So 80% of our apprentices complete the program, and so far, everyone that's graduated is still at their sponsoring company. So you can see this, the loyalty thing is working here. Just a view of some of our network companies. Some you may know, some you may not. We've got Mason here in the bottom left, and you can see it runs the gamut from medical devices to heavy equipment to machinery to automotive to food and beverage manufacturers and pharmaceuticals. It really could be any company that needs these skills. And we always work with a local community college, and so these are all the colleges that we work with across the multiple states. And today we're talking, of course, with Parkland. I'd like to talk for just a minute about what we look at for this training profile for a fabrication and welding technician. Again, for this, the proposed profile. Reminder, we're exploring the opportunity. And so this is what we've got working with an industry consortium as well as Parkland for this. I mentioned well-rounded technicians, and so you'll see an example. Now, there's a lot of text on the slide. I don't want to sit and read every single point. No one likes to be read to on the slides. So I'm just going to point out a couple of them, move through the slide quickly. Everybody can get these slides after to peruse at your leisure, but don't expect to be able to read this whole thing the whole time, just as a heads up. So, right, at the very start, for the skills and knowledge, they need to be able to produce, assemble, and disassemble things. They need to read blueprints and know the right way to do that. Maintaining the operating equipment is also very important. And then the other thing we want to do is, welding is one very important piece of metal fabrication and a really needed skill, but, you might need to drill a hole. You might need to mill something or turn something on occasion. And so we are including other metal fabrication skills in this profile. Testing procedures, well, you got to know how to test it all. When is welding the right joining technique and when is not? Obviously, the different kind of welding. Materials, they have to know why. We want them to know why the materials, things are the way they are. And then, of course, there's, all right, yes, choose your materials. And of course, there's the methodology. We want to teach them to work systematically, use PPE, communicate effectively. So this is part of the well-rounded part, why it's important they do take that, college English class, for example, so that they can get more practice communicating. As I mentioned, not time to read all of this, but we will circulate this for anybody that needs it. So this is what we're looking at. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over. To Robert and John of Richland, who are going to tell us then about the welding program that they have there.
All right. Hopefully you can hear me. Thanks, Virginia.
Yeah.
And I am trying to click.
I've got it for you.
All right. So good. So as Virginia said, my name is John Oliver. I'm the Director of Workforce Development. This is a little different for me because I'm used to speaking to an audience that I can see and interact with. So this is, I've done 2 of these now back to back. And so I'm not good at just talking to my computer screen. So if you're not familiar with us, Richland Community College, we're on the east side of Decatur, Macon County, founded in 1971. So we're going on 50 years old. The main campus, west side of Decatur. No, yes. And then 155 acres. We're just right around Caterpillar and ADM, if you're familiar with their location. We offer really 3 types of classes. Transfer classes, which we're not going to talk a whole lot about because the apprenticeship program, what you're here for, really has nothing to do with our transfer classes. That's our associate in arts, associate in science for students that are transferring for a bachelor's degree later on. The other one is our career and technical education, which is a big component of this, and you're very familiar with that. Matter of fact, our welding program is a CTE program, and then the other part is our customized training, contract training. And so as you can see here, my umbrella is workforce training, and so we really focus on the customized contract training. Several of you are already in contracts with us. You have what looks like an apprenticeship program. You even call the individuals apprentices, but they're not registered. And that's kind of what we're talking about today with the ICATT model. It would be a registered apprenticeship that comes along with the Department of Labor certification. Again, you're already doing the work. We're already doing the work. It's just not a registered program. So there is a lack of funding there is a lack of credentialing that goes along with that. And so with the apprenticeship model, what we're talking about is a fabrication and welding apprenticeship program. And the pros of that is, one, ICAT, obviously Richland will help you with the recruitment. We know it's hard to find welders, but that's the individuals would apply through the ICAT program, and you would essentially get to select from a pool of candidates. There's credentials that come along with this. As I mentioned, you have the international credential from ICAT, but then you also have the Department of Labor credential that goes along with the registered apprenticeship program. We just saw the 100% commitment essentially for all the apprentices from ICAT, or that ICAT have worked with in the last few years. So again, there's proven stats even outside the ICAT model across the country. Apprenticeships, there's a larger commitment from the employee because you're making an investment in them, and they are involved. They're tied into your culture at an early stage of their training. And then a big component, obviously, is grant funding. Everybody likes free money, and so the only way to access grant funding in the apprenticeship program is registered apprenticeships. There is right now under the Pritzker administration, they just signed. I think it is starting in January and expires in 2024. There is a $3,500 tax credit that will, and then up to $4,500 in certain territories or certain neighborhoods, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how they determine those neighborhoods. We could look more into it if we get to that point. But definitely $3,500 that goes toward the training cost, the college cost. So, we're going to talk about more of the apprenticeship model here as we go, wages and all that good stuff and stipends. But as far as the cost that goes to the college, tuition, fees, books, that part is, there is a tax credit that's out there for the state of Illinois right now. At this time, I'll hand it over to Robert Bryce to talk more about the program.
Oh, Robert, we can't hear you.
I think you're muted, Robert.
Can hear you. How about now?
There we go.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again
Can
for
you hear me
having me.
now?
I am going to talk just briefly about this slide here. These are obviously our welding courses that we feel fit best with this fabrication and welding tech. These are specific to currently what we have as construction and pipe, AAS, but anyway, we're really proud of these courses, and I just want to give you a brief overview of each one. So looking at the first one, Welding Fundamentals 100, that's oxyacetylene and plasma arc cutting, and that's for production and maintenance work. The next one, 101, shielded metal arc welding. It's also designed for production and maintenance, but we also include some millwright in that. We're really excited for these entry-level classes. We just obtained a virtual welder from Reality Works, which we're going to be incorporating, into the hands-on, learning, at least for the entry-level classes. So that's going to be a big thing for us. Moving along to 120, which is intermediate shielded metal arc welding. That basically, we're looking at the 2G, 3G, 4G positions in that class. Gas metal arc, flux core arc welding, 125. It's basically MIG welding, and for those of you who aren't familiar, that's metal inert gas. Looking at 130, that's more TIG welding, and again, that's the focus on that is also for maintenance and production. Moving along to advanced shielded metal arc, 135. It's similar to welding 101 and 120, but this focus is on pipe welding. And then you move into pipe welding 140. We focus on 2G, 5G, and 6G positions in that class. Moving right along to welding 145, which is welding tools and safety. Pretty self-explanatory, but the focus here is actually on the construction trades. Do a lot of blueprint, rigging, introductory stuff. Maintenance repair welding 190. Basic industrial maintenance welds are focused on there. 202 welding certification. The American Society of Mechanical Engineers, code welds on plate in 3G and 4G. And on pipe, we focus on the 6G position. Pipe fitting fundamentals 208. This is basically we're learning about hand power tools used for tasks in pipe fitting. We introduce students to underground piping, excavations, that sort of thing. Moving along to pipe fitters applications 215. That builds on welding 145. We get a lot of trade math, advanced rigging, and pipe support fabrication. And just a couple more here. The aluminum and stainless steel welding 243. We utilize the GTAW process on aluminum plate and the SMAW process on stainless steel pipe. So, you know, obviously that's GTAW is gas tungsten arc welding. SMAW is shielded metal arc welding. And then we go down to 245, which is GMAW, FCAW pipe welding. And the types of positions they use are 1G, 2G, 5G, and 6G. So we cover a lot of ground on that track. We're really proud of these programs, and we feel like we have a lot to offer there. And so moving right along to the next slide, our full-time instructor, Joe Draeger. You can read for yourself. Basically, he's the best welder I've ever seen, and not just being the best welder, he's so good at being able to take that and teach our students. He has a great way with the students, and to get it to click for them. I'll let you read through his you know, vast resume there, but he's got over 40 years of experience in the industry, mostly as a Boilermaker. But one of the things we really like about Joe is he gives it to our students straight. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He really prepares them well for careers in welding, whether it be production, maintenance, or construction.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much, John and Robert. We really appreciate that. Thank you. And as I mentioned before, there will be time at the end to have questions. If you do have questions about any of these specific topics, you'll have an opportunity there. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Marianne Brown of Mason Manufacturing, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you, Virginia. Mason Manufacturing has been employing skilled welders and craftsmen for over 30 years in the Decatur area. Mason custom fabricates shell and tube heat exchangers and various other ASME pressure vessels for companies in a variety of processing industries throughout the United States. Our workforce includes highly skilled welders, and these welders have certifications meeting the ASME code standards. But as other companies in this region also experience, we have difficulty in recruiting skilled welders, and that's due mainly to the low numbers of potential candidates. The ICATT apprenticeship is an exciting option for us as an employer. This program provides a structured learning approach to help an individual quickly grow in welding skills, but also in those communication and analytical skills that will help them become leaders. This program provides an option for a person that wants to work and has some job security, but also wants to strive to become better and has that focus for continued education and training. So for those reasons, we feel this opportunity provides an excellent combination, both that education and that on-the-job training. Our plan is to place 2 to 3 welders in this program to start building our skilled workforce of tomorrow. As Virginia mentioned, there is a trend with core employees nearing that retirement age, and we need to be planning for the next 5 to 10 years. How will we replace all those skilled workers? The ICATT apprenticeship program will benefit both the employer and those workers wanting to improve knowledge and skills, and the Mason team is excited about this opportunity.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Marianne. I really appreciate that. And hopefully we can get this on board for you so we can get going. Great. Thanks. Okay. Let's see. The next thing I want to talk about is actually the timeline and next steps. So as I mentioned, this is a program that we're exploring. We have a number of programs up and running with the ICATT Apprenticeship program, but this is the profile we have not done yet. So we need the local employers to tell us if this is going to be something that we can do. So we are looking at an August 2021 start for this program. If we're going to do this and get everything set up to do it right, then we need company commitments by December so that we can do all the work that needs to be done in order to make this work. In order to have a viable program, we need at least 3 employers committed by this date. So, you know, you've got a little bit of time, but time goes faster than you think. So that would be the deadline if you're interested. We do need those commitments. We need those commitments in. Once that happens, once we've got the go, then, I've got some, yes. So we can start doing recruiting. We'll go out to the high schools and talk to the CPE teachers, talk to the workforce boards and the other employment partners to try to get those apprentice applications in for that program. We'll be doing the coordination with Richland College to make sure the scheduling works out. And then another reason to move forward quickly is we do absolutely recommend an internship or part-time work. If you're going to be hiring a high school graduate, bring them in spring break, bring them in on an Friday afternoon job so that they can actually see what it would be like. So the earlier you move, the better. And the people that hire earlier get their good candidates, I will say that. So another reason to move forward step by step and not wait until the late spring. And then over the summer, once you've got your apprentices, then we'll be sitting down to do the company training plan development. We might also, as you can see, that trial job, if you haven't done it already, to sit down and get started for the August start date, where they would start their college coursework in August. College coursework in August. Okay, so, but between now and December, there's decisions to be made. This is a strategic decision. This is a workforce strategy, and so we recognize that this does not happen overnight, and we recognize that it's a really important decision to be made. And so I want to bring up just a couple of factors to consider. One of the things we do with companies is help them work this out, but I just want to put get the thoughts started rolling in your head as you're considering this. So there is absolutely a cost to a new workforce development program, and for anyone. But I do want to make sure that people are comparing that to the cost of the status quo, because this workforce shortage absolutely has a cost, and it's a cost we can help you calculate to get a number, a firm number on what the status quo is costing you. So, you know, first of all, a very important point, last year, how many open positions did you have? You can also look forward to when people retire, how many are you going to have in 2022 based on your retirements or something like that. But you need to pick a year and the number of open positions. Past helps because then you can get better numbers. Then you start looking, what delays in production did you have? How many downtime hours, or did you lose any orders or have to turn down anything due to the shortage? Last spring, there was a lot of statistics from manufacturers that they were turning down orders and hampering growth because they didn't have the workforce. And so look carefully at your company. Do you have any examples of what happened? And what were the dollar values of that? Downtime, depending on the production thing, can actually have a number per hour. Other types of manufacturers, it may really just be the lost value of a specific order. And then also quality issues. Some employers are having this, some are, it comes out more in the delays. But if you did have a quality issue, what was the dollar value of that quality issue? Again, looking at one specific year, last year, what did you experience? From the HR side, recruiting and interviewing for the open positions, how much time did your HR team spend on that? And not only the value of that time, but what other projects could they not go through because they were so busy interviewing again and again and again for these positions. Sometimes, depending on the business model, there might be expedited shipping costs. There's overtime due to delays. You can have really downstream effects. And this cost of the status quo is typically divided among a lot of different departments, which is why, in our experience, most manufacturers haven't actually put the number on it. And when they put a number on it, it's usually like 10 times higher than, it's an order of magnitude higher than they had expected when they really start looking at all those costs. So that's an important thing to do with your own company, with or without our help. And then you have to look at your company culture, again, from the top or the vision all the way down to the people who would be training. Is there a will in your company to, instead of spending this money that you're already spending because of the skills gap, is there a will to invest that in the training instead? To take that and put that money into something that will hopefully pay back. And you know, honestly, we talk to companies that don't have that culture. And an apprenticeship program won't change it. So it's something to really look at internally. Do you have the will internally to do something different, invest in training to try to close this gap and do things a little bit differently? The question of the ICAT team, yeah, this is a big deal. To start an apprenticeship program, to do a new strategy, a new workforce strategy and initiative is a big deal. We understand, and we are there to help, right? Our job is to service provider and to help take that burden off you so you can focus on your core business, and we can help you get this up and running. So we do the coordination with the community college to make sure those classes are scheduled the way they need to be on the 2-day, 3-day. What's the schedule for my apprentice next semester? If they already have some courses, can they skip this one? All of that work we can take over for you. Marketing and recruiting. We're not a recruiting agency, and we cannot promise you we will find you the absolute candidate. I want to be clear about that, but we absolutely do go out and present to high schools. We market the program. We work on gathering applicants to present them to you. So we absolutely feel confident we can present some applicants. But that's also a cooperation. So every company should also be advertising, should also be telling their employees about it, and should be looking at their incumbent workforce to see if there's somebody that would be a good fit for the apprenticeship program as well. For the on-the-job learning, we can help you develop that company training plan, and then even more detailed, we actually have a seminar specifically designed for technicians training apprentices to give them the skills that they need to be effective teachers, because being a technician and being a trainer are two different things. We want to make sure that our trainers and mentors do have those skills. So that's available as well. Ongoing consultation, I mentioned Doris Baba is on the call, and she's always out with our companies checking in, making sure things are going well. Does everyone have the tools they need? Is the training progressing to plan? Do we need to revamp the training plan and things like that? In terms of administration, if you do register the apprenticeship with the Department of Labor, it is not required, but we do encourage it, as John mentioned, to open you up to a lot of grant dollars. We can act as the sponsor for that. So we do basically you sign one piece of paper and we do all the regular reporting for the DOL. If you'd like to do that. And then I mentioned quality control. We want to measure. You can't improve what you don't measure. We do have apprenticeship program exams for every profession that we do, where everyone across the country who works in this, so anyone across the country who did a fabrication and welding apprenticeship would take the same exam every year to test, can they actually do it? It's a written exam as well as a practical exam that covers a lot of the capstone. So it would be comparable to the CPA exam or the bar exam, or for engineers, the fundamentals of an engineering exam that we do for a lot of the salaried professions that we deal with. So that's how we would be involved in helping you. So now it's time for questions, and so I'm just wondering, what questions can we answer for you?
We would have the first question for Mason, for Marianne.
Yes.
How did Mason justify the investment into an apprenticeship towards the management?
Oh, we look at the investment that we're making in our employees on a regular basis, and looking at the cost of not investing in the future is much higher than what we will see spending wise on a regular basis investing in these young people. But there's a track there that they will be working with us, and we're going to see that money return as they gain skills, they take leadership roles, versus an employee that comes in, enjoys the work, but then finds a job out of state making so much more and they leave. We lose the investment of the time and energy on that particular individual. Whereas this, we're going to have a period of time And we see the value in that dollars being spent and the skills that those employees will learn and be able to apply on the job.
I guess that answers it.
Mm-hmm.
We would have an ICAT question.
Sure.
What is the main difference between ICAT and the other apprenticeships?
Let's see. I would say there's so many different kinds of apprenticeships. that one's a little bit hard to say. But one thing I would say within the program is we recognize that employers without the job itself, nothing can start. So we have a lot of apprenticeship programs where the apprentice getting somebody a job is the most important part of they just get them a job. And that's important because helping the young people is important, but we really put the company at the center of what they do, making sure that the company has those tools to do that effective training, because only if the company is successful will they be able to offer the jobs to the young people. So I would say from a philosophical point of view, excellence at the company side, and then giving the companies the tools they need. So our Train the Trainer program is really extensive. It's not like one day, here's some things to remember, here's a training plan. If we do it on site, it's really a 4-day program to really give people the chance to practice the tools and learn all the things that go into effective training. Because again, it needs to be effective. Just calling it an apprenticeship program is not going to necessarily get you the results that you're looking for. And then when I talk about results, another big difference is these exams that we do. We are a big believer in you can't improve what you don't measure. And we do want to measure the output of what our apprentices can do at the end. With the exams, we had a company doing a different profession that had been taking exams for 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden their apprentices' test scores just fell off a cliff. And so we were able to course correct. We were able to go in and say, here's an issue that we saw. What's going on differently in your company this year? And they were actually able to track down the problem. And I would say that is one thing that we're all really proud of, that we're able to get that information so that, again, we can enable that high quality on the job training that's just as high quality as the high quality training they're getting in the classroom at Richland.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question, was answered already by John, but maybe we can pick this up again. Is there any financial support, federal or state?
Let's see. Well, let's see. So from the state of Illinois, John did mention the tax credit, and so what that is expenses starting January 1 of this year are eligible for a tax credit on your next tax return. So nobody's tax return would be eligible yet unless your fiscal year just like ended March 31st or something like that. And that would be for a registered apprenticeship. So it would need to be registered with DOL, where the classroom training is happening at a community college. Those community college fees can be used to offset as a tax credit. And I believe that's the one that you were referring to, John?
Yes. And really, I mean, the cost for training can be offset a lot. Now, I mean, I don't know if Virginia then want to talk about the ICAT membership, all of that, but what I did when I met Ted Lakowski, who's on this call and one of the organizers of this panel, is when we wrote for our last workforce grant, which was right before the stay-at-home orders or COVID hit, whatever you want to call it, and I have not heard the results of our grant yet, but I did write in to that grant because I am wanting to try to get this off the ground. We've been kind of spinning our wheels for 3 years now, so I did write into the grant money that would offset the ICAT membership cost. So if that gets approved, there will be money for that, along with the tax credit, plus any employers on the call, you know, do understand that these individuals, I don't want you to select an individual based on this, but if they're WIOA eligible, Workforce Investment Solutions, you know, Larry Peterson there that works with manufacturers, you know, if they're WIOA eligible, there's funding there that pays for their schooling, their training. There's federal financial aid. I mean, this program would be federal aid eligible. So, you know, individuals could receive financial assistance that's paying for their schooling. But, you know, again, from an HR perspective, make sure you're not saying, oh, do you qualify for Pell Grant? Okay, we'll select you as our apprentice. I don't think you want to go that route. So.
Right. I think that you make a really good point that registering the apprenticeship, I mentioned, is optional but recommended. Registering that with the DOL does open a lot of doors to a lot of different grant funding that may come up and may be available now or later. And then the candidates themselves may have different options, but as John, excellent point, I'll just reiterate, you want to pick the right person for you. Because if you pick the right person for you, if you save $3,000 here or $2,000 there, it's going to not make a difference at all between the right person and the wrong person. So that's an important point. Thanks, John.
We have actually one more question for Richlands. How long have your welding classes been around?
Robert, do you want to answer that? Longer than me. I don't.
Yeah, John's been around Richland longer than I have. I'll defer.
I mean, they've been, well, Joe has been teaching, what did it say, 8 years?
Correct.
As far as the welding program, at least, well, definitely over 15 years, but I could not give you the exact date. Sorry.
We can say it's an established thing, huh?
Oh, yes. And you know, and
absolutely established, and it was just a number of years ago we expanded our booths, the number of our booths. We have 34 booths right now, state of the art, and to my knowledge, that many booths for a community college is the most amount of booths in Central Illinois. So we're proud of that.
Okay. And some of you have several of you probably on this call have a lot of our welders. You know, again, you know, Robert was talking about Joe. I would put Joe up against anyone as far as not only as an instructor, as far as knowing the skill set, but his integrity, the way he works with the students. You know, I'm actually, I consider Joe a friend now, and he's actually a man of character who, he really, you know, he gets on to his students, but he also cares for his students, which would be your employees.
One more question. I guess this is for ICATT and Richlands. Isn't a 3-year apprenticeship too long, seeing that we need the staff now?
Wait, I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Isn't a 3-year apprenticeship too long, seeing that we need the welders now?
Yes, the now versus later question. Right, exactly. Yes, we understand you need welders now. That's not the problem I can help you with, but you're gonna need them in 3 years as well. That's the problem I can help you with. And so this program won't solve all your staffing needs by any means, but we aim to get you started now so that in 2 or 3 years and 4 and 5 and 6 years, then you can relax and you're hiring there. But you will always need to hire that balance of experienced workers and apprentices. So yeah, can't solve today's problem, but the problem's not going away. So let's work now to solve the problem we have in 2 and 3 years.
Okay, that's it so far for the questions.
Are there any other questions from the audience? You can type them right there into the chat or the question section. You may also be able to raise your hand if you'd rather just ask your question, and we can probably have you answer it, ask it that way. Okay, while we're waiting for any other questions to come in or not, I do want to just say a little bit about the next steps. So I did mention that we are looking for company commitments. And those company commitments, we need to decide between now and December 1st of this year. And so we know this doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of discussions, questions that may not be asking here, your teams back at home may well be asking. So you will get the slides and you will access the recording of this presentation as well. And then you can see contact information on the screen for ICATT. Really, the next step is to have a conversation. What are your needs? What are you looking for? How well does it match? Is this going to be a fit for you? to see if it makes sense for you guys to move forward would be another important next step. So that was my spiel to end. Sasha, did we have any other questions come in the meantime?
No, no questions anymore.
Okay. All right, sounds
We
good.
left them speechless.
Oh, sorry, what?
We left them speechless.
So comprehensive, we answered everything. Well, I do want to say thank you to John and Robert from Mason. Thank you to Mary Ann thank you to John Robert from Richland. Thank you to Mary Ann from Mason. And thank you to all my staff on the ICAT team that ran all this stuff behind the scenes and made sure that this was successful. I hope everybody learned a lot, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Virginia. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, bye.
You
Bye.
too. Bye, everyone.